Hi, I'm Dustin Mason, and this is the Lexus ES 350 versus the Toyota Camry. A lot of people wonder the difference between the ES 350 and the Toyota Camry because they do share a very similar, if not the same platform. So let's go over some of the little details that I noticed. First of all, the front end on the Camry is the closest it's ever been to being the Lexus ES 350. This particular one is the SE base model, and we are comparing it to the base model ES 350 as well. On that front grille, we have a lot of styling, and some of it even reminds you of the Lexus spindle grille or the Toyota version or the Toyota take on that spindle grille. We have a lot of really nice matte black plastic that's super durable sort of in the center, and if you pay close enough attention, even some of these angles reminds me exactly of the Lexus spindle grille. So like the trim around it, how it's kind of angular. There are those nice angles in the middle as well as at the top. On the bottom, nothing too crazy here. We just have a tiny little lip clip because the SE is that sport package, right? Off to the side, I will say on the Camry, it is a lot of fake spindle instead of in the center where it actually does have some airflow. So this was totally blocked off, probably for fuel economy. It is a nice looking decoration, but obviously fuel economy is always one of the priorities here. In terms of the headlights themselves, we do have a little bit of a daytime running light on the higher packages. On this SE base, there's just a projector in there. There is a little bit of sort of reflecting of that projector light, but in those higher packages, we see dedicated LED strips so that you can differentiate a little bit as well. Also, I noticed when driving the Camry, the hood lines are a little more dominant than the Lexus, which is interesting to see. So we sort of have them meeting here in the actual direct edge of that Toyota emblem and then sort of flowing back to the windshield itself. Over to the Lexus ES 350. So this being a base model, there isn't that spindle grille, or there isn't the aggressive spindle grille, I guess I should say. So we have sort of a gray color with some metallic in there. It is a little bit more of the longer little Lexus emblems, and if you look closely, it does look like the L from the Lexus emblem. And all of that is active aero, as well as trimmed off by some chrome on the sides and top, and then sort of a matte chrome on the bottom, which you wouldn't notice until you get up close, but that does make it a little bit more durable because it's really hard to touch up chrome. We do have some chrome and decorations on the side. There is no intakes or active venting there unless you go to the Sport Design or the F-Sport Series 1 and 2. That would give you a little bit more of that spindle and actual aero on the sides. We do still have the daytime running light. It is the frosted glass with a projector headlight, so that's nice. Even in the base model, it doesn't really look like a base model headlight. And the body lines are a little bit less aggressive than the Camry actually. So a little bit more swooping, a little bit less angular, but still kind of draws your eyes to the front of the grille, not as much as the Camry though. So taking a look under the hood of the 2023 Toyota Camry. Most of the ones on the road are going to be the 4-cylinder, which is a little bit of a shame because that V6 is such a powerhouse. But there's still a lot of horsepower here. We have a 200 horsepower, 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. And under the hood itself, there isn't a whole lot of covering. So you can actually see all the components, the injectors, the intake, all the gadgetry that makes this engine so reliable and smooth. And you know, without too many decorations, we have the Toyota emblem in the center, and everything else is just metal, rubber, and plastic. It does have the 8-speed transmission, which gives it some really good fuel economy. And even though the 200 horsepower is nothing like the 300 horsepower V6 in like the TRD Pro right now, it's still super smooth and is plenty for the type of buyer that's going to be looking at this car. Also, a lot of people are buying hybrids now too. I could only get my hands on this one, so this is the one that we're using, but it's still pretty big in the marketplace. As for the ES 350, the one we're using today, since it's the base model ES 350, is the 3.5 liter V6. You can get the ES 250 in the same, essentially the same engine configuration as the Camry I just showed you, but all-wheel drive. The V6 is only front-wheel drive. There's a little bit less to look at under the hood. We have a little bit more decoration, a little bit more covering, and of course, an actual chrome Lexus emblem, where on the Toyota, it had sort of like, just like a cheap plastic Toyota emblem, which is really funny that Lexus always does try to showcase a little bit more. And also, even looking under the hood, you can see very obviously a little bit more insulation. So even off to the strut to the side there, I see a little bit more foam. I see a little bit more substance, probably just to keep that sound level down to justify the upgrade to the ES350. Okay, so looking at the side profiles now, there's a lot to go over and a lot of differences between the Camry and the ES. One of them is the shape of the mirrors themselves are a little bit more boxed off, and on the Camry, we don't have much of an indicator light there. The tires are 215/55s Michelin's on a 17-inch wheel on both the Camry and the ES, and they're the exact same tire. It's the exact same tire used in both cars. As for any type of decoration or body lines, we have a little bit of skirting at the bottom, a little bit of lines kind of going across from the front to the back in the center and at the bottom of the doors. Nothing too crazy, it's not too aggressive, with some chrome sort of trimming off the windows. The handles on the Camry are the same they've used in the lineup for years and years. It is a little plastic, but they're pretty solid, and that sound is solid, except the back is a little tinny. So the front, super solid on the Camry. The back, maybe a little bit lighter, but still not too bad for this price point. The base wheel, again, nothing too crazy. It just is a little bit of, you know, it's not quite hyper silver, it's just a little bit of maybe like a matte silver. Super easy to clean, I'm sure. And then the back quarter panel here, again, just a little bit of body lines, some vortex generators, nothing too crazy. Over to the ES350. To try and compare what you're getting for that extra money, everything from even the way the mirror is shaped, it seems to be a little bit more airflowy, I guess you could say, where I'm sure it's not really creating any aerodynamic, but it looks like it is, which is important. So we have a little bit of that. We have an indicator lamp straight across that mirror, which is really nice. Again, it's a base model 17-inch wheel, so a little bit of two-tone brushed and painted aluminum there. Body lines on the ES, actually less skirting and less sportiness when you're looking at the side profile because of it being the premium package. So we do have one body line at the top that goes across, and a really solid door handle that actually has been used since 2018. But let's hear how it sounds. Super solid. Let's check the rear. Actually more solid than the Camry. So probably what they've done is added some sound deadening to that door, because it does even feel a little bit heavier. And because of that, I just hear a little bit less of that resignation when I'm slamming it, which is really good. And then towards the back, we just have, again, a little bit of a body line, nothing too crazy in terms of decorations or anything like that. As for the rear styling on the Camry, so the taillights, combination lamps, nothing too crazy there. Not really any LED strips on this model. It just seems like a regular bulb behind there with some decorations. And we have this little venting down the side. Reminds me of the first generation RC 350 and RC, where there was sort of like plastic venting down the sides of that rear bumper. That's kind of like that. We have chrome Camry spelled out at sort of the center of that trunk space with a little bit of a lip on lip spoiler, I guess you could say. On the rear, we have the exhaust off to one side. I'm pretty sure one of them is fake though. So it is more of a styling thing. And the bottom diffuser actually looks pretty good. We have a painted part and a matte black finished part. I'm not even gonna compare the trunk sides because they're pretty much the exact same between the ES and the Camry. Over to the ES for styling though. So we have a little bit more chrome, which is sort of the theme with this ES350. So chrome at the top, a little bit more LED layered lights in terms of the taillights with an LED backup light, and then more of an integrated exhaust, and it's a dual exhaust at the bottom of the bumper there. So not much of a lip or diffuser, but we do have that little chrome integrated into the bumper, which looks pretty nice, but mostly the taillights on the back is where it really stands out. Okay, so sitting in the Toyota Camry, I'm actually very impressed. I drive a Lexus every day, so I didn't know what to expect about the Toyota Camry. There are some big differences. The biggest thing I noticed is this being a base model SE, the seats are amazing. So we have some leather trim, it's probably the Softex leather. On the outsides, the inside, there's a decent amount of cushioning. It feels like a really solid seat. Like there's a lot of material there and a lot of cushion there, which is nice. I do see some heated seats in the center here. I did notice a heated steering wheel as well. And even the trim around, there are a lot of layers to things like the dashboard. So we have some piano black with a little bit of metallic trimming the top and sort of swooping off to the side. And then we have a little bit more of a modern artwork that is very soft and actually kind of satisfying to touch. The noise it makes when you run your fingers on it is pretty fun. A little bit of stitching here on the center. The top of the dash doesn't look leather, it's an injected molded plastic for sure. And then even in the center here, it's a matte plastic material. So it kind of, if you bang on it, it kind of feels like you're in a base model, but it doesn't look at it when you're looking at it. So that's pretty cool. Decent amount of storage space up in front of the cup holders as well. It looks like the same armrest from the Lexus, but it opens this way. So there's that. Decent storage in there with some USB-Cs. And also, I noticed, and this is big for me in the summer, there's a sunglass holder, and it's huge, and it's really easy to get to because it's like further back instead of being near the rearview mirror, and it's giant, so you can't miss it. That's always important. There is automatic climate control in here, and the steering wheel is wrapped in leather. I noticed the TFT display does look a little bit updated. It's color, and I can see some animations on there. You know, when you turn on the radar cruise control, there is a picture of a Camry, for instance, and a digital readout of the speed, which is always important. The paddle shifters are sort of like a matte black plastic. The screen, however, is definitely very different from the multimedia system in the ES350. It looks to me like it's still the old system from, you know, Toyotas in 2016 and 17. It's quick and it makes a nice beep noise, and there's buttons on both sides, but it definitely is the older model or the older sort of system. But that's okay, all things considered. So driving position, I'm in a pretty good spot. I'm about 6'1", and the seat is power. It doesn't have memory, and the steering wheel is telescoping. Again, not power, but I feel very good here. Even getting in the car wasn't too bad. It's not super low, so getting in and out of it, even as a taller guy, is pretty great. My head has lots of room above me. My legs have lots of room. This one doesn't have the sunroof, so I'm sure that sunroof is gonna lower that headliner just a bit, but I have room to spare for sure. Okay, so sitting in the back of the Toyota Camry, again, being 6'1", I have lots of headroom, lots of legroom. I left the seat in front of me the same distance I would if I was driving. So another tall person could be in front of me, and the seat is actually pretty solid. I have a little bit of a pouch sort of behind it. I have an armrest here with some cup holders, which is nice. Other than that, there's nothing too crazy back here. I mean, there's no other amenities, just space. And there is a little bit of a hump in the center, but I could still fit back here with 2 other people for a short trip and be totally fine. The door panels, it did look like maybe they did cheap out just a little bit because of the base model. So the materials themselves aren't as solid as the front, but again, not the end of the world for the price point. Okay, so sitting in the ES350 premium package, there is a lot of amenities for being a base model, essentially. So the first thing I notice is the materials throughout the cabin are very modern. We have some matte black wood paneling on the top of the door panel, as well as on the steering wheel. And I love that the wood grain hasn't fully gone out of style, it's just changed over the years. So a little bit of wood grain just sort of in the inserts. The reason they don't do it on the full top is because it is a heated steering wheel. So that makes it so you can still heat the top of it. Automatic climate control, we have some cooled seats and heated seats that come standard for the front, as well as I'm mentioning that heated steering wheel. The center has sort of been rejigged over the last year. We don't have the remote touch anymore. So instead of using a mouse pad to control the screen, it's simply just a massive touchscreen. Now, when Lexus was starting to switch over to the touchscreen, I was a little hesitant because I noticed when I'm driving, as I'm trying to touch something and hitting bumps, it's all over the place. But what Lexus did with this one is they have this little ledge underneath the screen. And because of that, I use 2 of my fingers to kind of stabilize and rest on that ledge so that when I'm pressing the buttons, I can kind of be anchored a little bit. And it works really well, even when moving, which you're not gonna touch a ton of buttons while moving, but still enough that it's nice to have some stability for your hand. So that's pretty great. The TFT display is a little bit customizable. We can see some fuel economy, its color. It's pretty similar to the Camry, to be honest, just a different layout. So there's not a whole lot there, but the multimedia system is. So this is the new Lexus interface that we've seen in the new NX and RX and LX and all that stuff. It's the exact same in the new Camry, so that is a really nice upgrade. We do have a sunroof as standard, just a single panel, and there is no sunglass holder up top here. Not sure why they couldn't do that, but instead we have a little ledge sort of in front of the cup holders, and behind the cup holders, we have a wireless charging pad that even for my S22 Ultra, which is a pretty big phone, it fits perfectly in there. And even if my phone got bigger somehow, I would still have a little bit of room, which is nice. The armrest opens sort of from each side instead of down the center like the Camry, but it is nice and big. And even on the door panels, we have some nice materials like actual aluminum, some black brushed aluminum on top of the window bezel, and overall just very nicely appointed without being over the top. In terms of driving position, being 6'1" in the ES350, super comfortable. The steering wheel is power telescopic, as well as memory seating for the power seats and the mirrors. And because of that, when you shut off the car, everything sort of opens up and goes away from each other. So if you need more space to get in and out of the vehicle, that is totally customizable and is kind of a nice way to do it, but it sort of feels like I'm in a couch, which is nice. The back seat of the ES350, just like the Camry, lots of room back here. I put that front seat set up for a 6'1" person, and now I still have tons of space behind. The door panel, we have more amenities though. So we have actual wood grain on the top, as well as a floating door handle, a speaker in the door, a nice bezel for the window. So they didn't really cheap out in the back of the ES, which is nice. Armrest, actually really heavy armrest. I don't know if you could hear that. Super solid. We have, a little cover here for those cup holders and a pass-through. So the back seat of the ES does not have folding rear seats. Otherwise, a couple USB-C ports in the center, as well as just a little cigarette outlet thing. But otherwise, pretty decent back here. Again, the higher package is probably a little bit better, but for now, not too bad. So there you have it. Two mid-size sedans on similar platforms, but some big differences. So which one are you choosing? The Camry, which as equipped starts around the 30,000 mark, or the ES350, which as equipped is around the $50,000 mark. The ES, a little bit more power, actually a lot more power in that V6 engine, some more luxury, some updated tech, some more materials and luxuries throughout. But the Camry, for $30,000, you're still getting the same space, still a smooth ride, literally the same tires from the ES. And even though it's a 4-cylinder, if you don't care about that, it's a great buy. I'm Dustin Mason. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe.